This is not just about property. This is about deceit, betrayal, and all that I sacrificed for this family. The courtroom was silent as Janelle Brown rose from her seat, her voice breaking but resolute. She wore dark green, a color representing her fortitude and autonomy. Janelle jabbed across the courtroom at Robyn Brown, seated stonily beside her lawyer. Viewers of TLC's Sister Wives had never seen Janelle this way. She wasn't the level-headed, steady second wife anymore. She was a firecracker, screaming for truth. Janelle called out Robyn for controlling family finances, keeping assets relating to the Coyote Pass property under wraps, and emotionally isolating the other wives. This family was meant to be equal. But Robyn, you made Kody a stranger, and our dream your kingdom. The judge leaned forward. Cameras were forbidden, but tension was so thick it could have been broadcast. Session 2, Robyn's defense. I did nothing wrong. Robyn rose, blotting the tear as her attorney spoke. My client never manipulated anyone. She always had the family's best interest at heart. But the court wasn't fooled. Even the people sitting in the audience could detect the nervous smile on Robyn's face. She said she managed the finances only because Kody trusted her. She declared she was the legal wife, and that brought responsibilities, such as taking care of the family trust. Janelle interrupted. Legal wife or not, that does not entitle you to conceal documents, divert funds, and exclude the rest of us. The judge warned Janelle for interrupting, but she didn't back down. Your Honor, I lived in a trailer while Robyn built a mansion. You tell me who she had in mind. It was merciless. The courtroom changed. Even Robyn's attorney hesitated. Session 3. The Kody bombshell, loyalty on the stand. Then Kody Brown took the stand. Tension was high. Would he stand up for Robyn, or finally confront the split? Kody took a seat, his hair back, looking visibly uncomfortable. Janelle and I were never legally married. Robyn and I are. She had to be included in the trust, because that's how the law is. The audience grumbled, but Janelle's lawyer persisted. Mr. Brown, did you notify Janelle of the changes to the trust documents? Kody hesitated. I thought she knew. You thought? Or did you tell her? Kody looked at Robyn, who looked away. No, he confessed. I didn't tell her. Gasps. Janelle closed her eyes, jaw clenched. It was the first time Kody openly acknowledged his lack of transparency, and it stung. Session 4, Secrets, Lies and a Shattered Sisterhood. Janelle's lawyers introduced emails and bank statements, showing Robyn diverted more than $200,000 into a separate account in her name. The funds were intended for the family's common housing and land development, but ended up paying for Robyn's mansion, her children's private education, and high-end indulgences. Robyn's defense crumbled. That money belonged to my marital property, with Kody. Robyn sobbed. But it was from the family account. Janelle exclaimed. You stole our dream and turned it into your playground. Even Meri, who sat quietly in the back of the courtroom, looked shell-shocked. Robyn had always been the victim. Now she resembled the villain. Janelle faced the judge. I don't want her in jail. I want the truth on the record. I want the world to know what she did to this family. The judge nodded. You'll get it. Session 5. The verdict and Janelle's final stand. The judge returned after several hours of deliberation. Robyn Brown, although not criminally liable, this court does acknowledge that financial manipulation did take place under the family trust. You are hereby directed to repay $132,000 to the Brown family trust, and you are descend as a controlling party of any shared financial assets. Robyn burst into tears. Kody was the picture of a man who finally understood what his blind devotion had cost him. But Janelle did not smile. She stood tall and delivered one last pronouncement. I gave this family my youth, my love, my loyalty. I walked through fire to defend it. Today isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming my voice. No woman should be silenced for standing up to control disguised as love. Outside the courtroom, cameras and fans mobbed. But Janelle strode on by, head held high. She had told her truth. And finally the world was listening. This isn't about land. This is about lies, betrayal, and everything I sacrificed for this family. The words boomed off the lofty walls of the courtroom like thunder. Janelle Brown, a woman once famous for her reserved composure and unassuming strength, now stood at the center of a battle in the courts, trembling, not with fear, but with the raw force of decades' worth of frustration welling to the surface. She had sat quietly in the background of the Brown family dynamic for years. The second wife, quiet, the provider, the head-down one, amidst the whirlwind of chaos. But today, under fluorescent lights and the scrutiny of a no-nonsense judge, she was silent no more. Wearing a dark green blouse, her understated but rebellious toast to rebirth and autonomy, Janelle slowly swiveled in Robyn Brown's direction. Robyn Brown, Robyn sat rigidly next to her expensive lawyer, her hands locked in her lap, her face impassive. But beneath the vacant stare, anyone could feel it: tension, perhaps guilt. The courtroom was charged. Nothing could be heard but the scratching of the judge's pen on the bench and the soft whisper of papers. "Stealed from me," Janelle went on, her tone firm though the emotion seething beneath was apparent. "You stole from all of us. You didn't merely play with the money. You played with the man I once thought cared the most for our own best interests." Gasps circulated throughout the room, even among the reporters who had been lucky enough to sit in the front row to what had rapidly become one of the most titillating family court battles in the history of reality television. This was not a sister wives' tale. This was war. Janelle leaned forward, her lawyer standing back from her. The judge, a stern-faced woman with intense eyes, beckoned her to go on. "I lived in a mobile home on the outskirts of Coyote Pass while you signed documents in our backs and into a $900,000 house with his full approval," Janelle said, her gaze fastening to Robyn's. "You knew what you were doing. You worked the system. You worked Kody, and you worked us." Robyn's lawyer stood. "Objection, Your Honor," emotionally charged and speculative. Continued. "Miss Brown, keep to the facts pertaining to your case," the judge instructed, but not harshly. There was a touch of understanding in her tone, a glimmer of recognition that maybe this case was about more than papers and borders. Janelle breathed. She fidgeted with her notes, but didn't glance down. "The facts are this. I was a contributing member of a shared family trust for over a decade. I put money in, not just financially but emotionally, physically, mentally. I helped raise the children. I helped build the vision. I worked, day and night, so our family could own that land. That land was supposed to be ours, a dream we all believed in. But that dream got killed the day Robyn and Kody made side deals, excluded us, and reorganized the finances without even letting me or Christine know," she addressed the judge. "I have evidence that papers involving the Brown family trust were manipulated without disclosure. I have bank statements of more than $200,000 diverted from communal accounts to a Robyn-named account, funds that were meant for constructing houses, not filling one's pockets." The judge furrowed her brow, nodding slowly. "And you'll be showing these documents in your case?" "Yes, Your Honor." Meanwhile, Robyn said nothing. Her fingers were shaking a little as she clutched her water bottle. Her lawyer leaned in close to her and whispered something in her ear, but she didn't flinch. Her carefully constructed image, the teary devoted wife, was cracking right before all of them. And Janelle wasn't done yet. "The emotional harm, that's more difficult to document, but no less tangible. Robyn didn't only siphon money. She siphoned trust. She made Kody believe the rest of us weren't true, that we didn't love him like she did. She exploited his pride, his ego. She drove him away from me, from Christine, from our children." One tear rolled down Janelle's face, but she didn't brush it away. She let it fall. "I saw my sons, our sons, treated like strangers. I saw Gabriel cry on the porch, because his father wouldn't come visit him. I sat quietly for years, while Robyn manipulated every family drama, so that she was the victim. But today, I'm not being quiet anymore." The courtroom was mesmerized. Even the other legal team couldn't conceal the change in atmosphere. This wasn't merely a custody or property issue. This was a human reckoning, live and unfiltered. The judge leaned forward. "Let's discuss the Coyote Pass land specifically. Can you elaborate on the timeline of when you think the trust documents were modified?" Janelle nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. We signed the original trust agreement in 2018. All wives at the time. Meri, Christine, I and Robyn were to be equal co-beneficiaries. But in 2021, as Christine was getting ready to exit, an amended trust was filed, naming only Robyn and Kody as control members. And you were informed? No. In fact, I only found out months later, when I tried to access information about building permits. That's when I discovered I had been removed as a decision maker. Robyn finally broke her silence. I didn't do it to hurt you, she said softly, barely audible. Kody and I thought it was best to simplify. To make it simple, Janelle interrupted, voice rising. You call making me disappear from a group dream simplifying? You lied to me, Robyn. We trusted you. All of us. Order, snapped the judge. One at a time. Janelle raised her hands, taking a deep breath. I'm sorry, Your Honor, but I've been quiet for too long. And the truth is, this isn't just about land or documents. It's about decades of control, disguised as unity. It's about a family that lost its soul, while one woman turned our collective dream into her personal empire. There it was. The truth, naked before the world. The judge, the lawyers, the quiet witnesses, and the world outside of those courtroom doors. Janelle Brown, who had previously stood quietly in the shadows, had now emerged as the voice for every woman who had ever been used, marginalized, and silenced in the name of family. She did not scream, she did not cry, she just stood where she was, like a mother bear, at long last fighting for what was hers, her future, her dignity and the truth. And as she resumed her seat, the courtroom held its breath. Even Robyn seemed diminished now, wrapped up inside herself like a mask had at last slipped. This was no longer merely a court case. This was a reckoning. The air was thick in the courtroom. Janelle's accusations clung like smoke, heavy and relentless. The audience was still reeling from the emotional whirlwind she'd created when the judge spoke to the other half of the room. Defense, she said, with authoritative finality. You may reply. A tall, dashing-looking man stood up alongside Robyn Brown, fidgeting with his cufflinks, before advancing. His name was Mr. Grayson Moore, a big-time family law lawyer from Flagstaff, who represented local politicians and celebrities. Your Honor, he began, sounding smooth and rehearsed. We must not forget this is a courtroom, not a reality television reunion. There were a few polite snickers from the media section, but Robyn did not smile. Her lips were pressed hard together, her eyes red and shining. She had not glanced at Janelle since the explosion, but she could feel the heat of her ex-sister wife's stare burning at her back. Mr. Moore went on to say, we believe that there was no fraud or other illegal financial impropriety. My client proceeded with the complete knowledge and agreement of her lawful husband, Mr. Kody Brown, and within her lawful rights as the exclusive lawful spouse in the marriage. At no point did she knowingly mislead or disguise facts from Miss Janelle Brown, or anyone else. He faced the judge, locking his fingers together. The plaintiff's complaints, though emotionally moving, are based in unreconciled family issues, not facts grounded in economic law. Slowly the judge nodded, her expression unreadable. Please continue with your witness. Mr. Moore faced Robyn, and motioned. She stood uncertainly, her body small under the glare of the courtroom lights. Dressed in a humble navy blue dress and pearl stud earrings, Robyn was the very picture of the sympathetic wife. Demure, refined, misunderstood. She ascended to the stand, and was sworn in, her voice no louder than a whisper. State your name for the record. Mr. Moore started. Robyn Alice Brown, she replied. And your connection to the Brown family? I'm Kody Brown's fourth wife, the only one legally wedded to him. Moore nodded. Let's speak to the plaintiff's primary claim. Did you ever deliberately conceal or siphon off money intended for the Brown family trust? No, Robyn replied hastily, shaking her head. I never concealed anything. All the finances were done with joint consultations with Kody. He trusted me to assist in managing things where others didn't want to be involved. In the distance, Janelle laughed out loud. Her attorney reached over to soothe her, but her gaze never wavered from Robyn. Moore continued. Miss Brown, the plaintiff has said that a sizable sum of money, about $200,000, was diverted into an account in your name. Why is that? Robyn's hands shook a little as she held the microphone. That money came out of the family account. Yes, but Kody and I spent it on mortgage debt, home maintenance, and education expenses. It wasn't for me alone. It was for our kids. And it was sanctioned by Kody. And did you tell the other wives? I thought Kody would, she said softly. I didn't think it was my place to speak for both of us. He was the head of the household. There it was. The familiar refrain. Robyn, the obedient wife. Robyn, the peacemaker. Robyn, the victim of someone else's authority. But the courtroom wasn't convinced. Janelle's attorney, Miss Rivera, rose from her seat. Your Honor, I'd like to cross-examine the witness. Proceed. Miss Rivera stood firm, unwavering. Her gaze pinned Robyn, as a hawk pins a quivering rabbit. Brown, she stated purposefully, you said the money you sent was applied to pay off collective family obligations. Yes, but that house money bought, did it not have your name and Kody's as the sole owners? Robyn paused. Yes, but respond with yes or no. Yes. And the education, was it for all the children, or only your biological children with Kody? Another hesitation. Just mine. Miss Rivera faced the judge. Let the record reflect that money from a communal trust was spent to cover property and education for only one household. Robyn cast her eyes down. Miss Rivera continued. You said you believed that Kody would inform the other wives of the financial adjustments. Did you ever ask him if he had? I don't remember. You don't remember asking him. Or you don't remember him giving you an answer. I don't remember either. Robyn muttered. Miss Rivera's voice sharpened. You conveniently can't remember things that might incriminate you. But you do remember being asked to handle family finances. You remembered paying school fees, mortgages, car payments, but not whether you were leaving 3 other women out of decisions about land they helped pay for. Robyn's mouth opened, but no words were forthcoming. Miss Rivera addressed the judge. No further questions. The courtroom was utterly still. Even Robyn's lawyer appeared shaken. Robyn slowly returned to her seat, refusing to meet anyone's eye. Her persona, the weeping gentle sister wife, who used to hold Christine's tissues in therapy sessions, was disintegrating. This wasn't a TLC confessional. This was life, on the stand with repercussions. And the repercussions were gathering. A fresh voice cut through the silence. May I speak, Your Honor? The courtroom gasped, as Meri Brown stood from the crowd. The judge blinked in surprise. You are not a party to this case, Miss Brown, she declared. I know, Meri replied. But I was a member of this family. I was a member of that trust. The judge glared at both sets of lawyers, who murmured among themselves. Miss Rivera nodded. We would welcome Meri's testimony, if it pleases the court. With a sigh, the judge nodded. Very well, Miss Brown, take the stand. Meri walked to the front slowly, her steps deliberate. Dressed in muted earth tones, she looked exhausted, like someone who had been carrying emotional baggage for a decade and had finally decided to drop it at the courthouse steps. She sat down, swore the oath, and looked straight at Robyn. Robyn was never just another wife. Meri started. As soon as she came into the fold, everything shifted. Kody shifted. The money shifted. Priorities shifted. Her voice quivered. I stood up for her initially. I took her in. But the longer I watched, I realized how she postured herself. She became the middle person, the gatekeeper. If we were going to speak with Kody about anything important, it had to filter through her. Meri breathed. And yes, I know about the money. Kody told me in private, back when he still spoke to me. Told me Robyn was more skilled at managing things. Told me we were too emotional. That Robyn had a better understanding of business. She addressed Janelle now. She didn't just steal from you, Janelle. She stole all of us. And she used Kody to do it. The judge ordered a recess. As the courtroom gradually emptied, Janelle stood frozen, clutching her folder for support. Robyn sat, looking white, her attorney speaking loudly in her ear. Outside the courtroom, there was a flurry of cameras. There were reporters begging for quotes. The world knew now what many fans had long suspected. The cracks in the Brown family weren't emotional alone. They were legal, financial, and personal. In Robyn's defense, it was disintegrating. The courtroom reconvened after an anxious 20-minute recess. But the temperature hadn't cooled. If anything, the break had given emotions a chance to steep. And now they were seething just below the surface. Everyone waited for one name to be announced. The bailiff's voice boomed like a bell. Kody Brown, please rise to the stand. A shiver of tension flowed through the room. Kody walked in, clearly at ease. His characteristic swagger was missing, replaced by nervous, almost combative energy. He readjusted his tie. Too constricting. He coughed. Too boisterous. His wild streaked hair was pulled back. But even that couldn't calm him down. This wasn't reality TV. There was no couch confessional to spin the story his way. This was a court, and his truth, or untruth, would soon be revealed. He sat in the witness stand. The judge gave a nod. "You may continue," she said to Miss Rivera, Janelle's lawyer. Miss Rivera stood and moved slowly. "Mr. Brown, you are the legally married husband of Robyn Brown, right?" "Yes." Kody shifted. "That is correct." "And you were once spiritually married to Janelle Brown?" "Yes, for almost 30 years." Miss Rivera walked back and forth in front of him, her voice measured but firm. "Let's be clear, Mr. Brown. Did you approve financial modifications to the Brown Family Trust in 2021 that took away Janelle Brown's access and authority?" Kody blinked and paused. "I think I might have. It wasn't about personal stuff. It was pragmatic." "Practical?" Miss Rivera nodded her head. "Paying off the woman who invested in that land financially and emotionally for decades? Was that practical?" "I figured she didn't want to be involved anymore." Kody answered hastily, looking at Robyn. She was constantly saying she wanted to be independent. She went and bought an RV on her own. She said she didn't want to be tied down. "So your reading of independence entitled you to cut her out of a legal contract?" Kody stiffened. "I didn't cut her out. I delegated duties. Robyn is my lawful wife. It was reasonable that we should be the trustees." "I had assumed." "You assumed." Rivera cut him off. "But did you discuss it with Janelle? Did you notify her?" There was silence. Kody swallowed hard. "No," he confessed. The word almost whispered. From the rear of the courtroom there was a gasp. Janelle pushed forward, her expression unreadable but her eyes blazing. Rivera bore in. "So you made a serious legal and financial judgment about property she helped pay for? Without even informing her?" Kody attempted to deflect blame. "I was working with a family. It wasn't like I had time to go around and get approval from all of the wives. Everything was changing quick. Christine was leaving. Meri was being cold. Janelle was doing her own thing." Robyn rose to it. "No further questions." Rivera interrupted him, swinging around abruptly and returning to her chair. The quiet that followed that moment was unbreakable. You could sense the breakdown of trust, the dismantling of years and years of spiritual bonds being ripped asunder, strand by strand. Right there in the stand. Kody wasn't done yet. Robyn's lawyer, Mr. Moore, rose for redirect. "Mr. Brown," he started, "was the family in crisis at this time?" Kody nodded. "Yes, certainly. We were imploding. Christine had left. There were COVID conflicts. Everyone was furious." "And Robyn, did she stand by you during all that?" "She was the only one who remained loyal," Kody said hastily. "The only one who wished for the family to remain together." Janelle grumbled under her breath. "No, she wanted you, not the family." The judge shot her a warning look. Mr. Moore went on. "So, is it safe to say that during a period of uncertainty, you depended on the sole legal spouse you had?" "Yes," Kody responded, more assertively now. "I depended on Robyn because she was reliable. I felt the other wives were opting out." "Did you ever plan to hurt Janelle financially?" "No, never." "Did you think Robyn was staying within legal parameters while dealing with joint finances?" "Yes," Kody repeated. "She wasn't attempting to hurt anyone. She was attempting to protect the family structure." But the jury, or in this instance the judge, didn't appear to be convinced. And neither was the crowd. Because no matter how many times Kody insisted Robyn was attempting to protect the family, it became obvious her protection came at everyone else's expense. Rivera stood once more for one last question. "Mr. Brown," she said deliberately, "you said Robyn remained loyal. But did you ever realize that she wasn't loyal to the family, just to you?" Kody blinked, wordless. "Because when loyalty only goes in one direction," Rivera said, "it's not loyalty, it's control." And with that she sat down again, leaving her last words hanging like a lit match being tossed into gas. The judge looked at the clock. "We will recess for lunch. This court will reconvene in an hour." The gavel came down. Outside, the courtroom steps buzzed with reporters, sister wives fans, and curious locals. The scene had become something between a media circus and a Greek tragedy. But inside, the people who had once called themselves a family were now adversaries, split by legal lines and years of wounds that had never healed. Within the corridor, Janelle remained still in a corner bench, her eyes shut. Her attorney gave her a bottle of water. "You were right," Rivera spoke softly. "He broke." Janelle opened her eyes. "He didn't break. He simply spoke the truth." Once, across the corridor, Robyn stood and watched them. Her eyes puffy, her face inscrutable. But even then, her grip on Kody was clear. He stood beside her, pockets stuffed with his hands, trying to avoid Janelle's eyes like a man torn between two falling worlds. And in that way, he was. Back in court, the commotion would not let up. The judge had witnessed enough chaos in her years on the bench to know a pattern when it yelled in her face. But the Browns? They were their own category. She flipped through her notes. Kody's testimony had corroborated more than anyone anticipated. Not just had he taken Janelle out of the trust behind her back, but he admitted to doing it on assumptions and loyalty, not legality. Robyn's defense was now shaky at best. And the worst? It wasn't about paperwork anymore. It was about intent. Had Robyn secretly pulled off a financial coup when the other wives were busy navigating emotional turmoil? Had Kody let her do it, or even been in on it, because he had already emotionally selected one wife from the others? The questions towered over them, and the answers would soon be at hand. Because up next, the court would hear from the financial analyst who audited the trust papers. And what she found would rip through the thin shreds of Robyn's narrative like a chainsaw. As the courtroom came back to life after lunch, the atmosphere had changed. The tension from before had hardened into something chillier, something unchangeable. What had been a family squabble at first now felt like a reckoning. Janelle sat up straight in her chair, calm but vigilant. Robyn paled, her face tenser than it had been that morning. Kody hadn't come back to sit next to her, opting to stand close to the courtroom doors instead. Far away, aloof, guilt or fatigue. It was impossible to tell. But his silence said enough. And then the judge cleared her throat and said the words that would set off the final unraveling. "Call your next witness." Miss Rivera rose. "Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Miss Dana Keller, certified forensic accountant and financial fraud investigator." A woman in her late 40s, impeccably dressed in navy blue, approached the stand with confidence. Dark-rimmed glasses and mountain of files signaled that she didn't come to speculate or guess. She came to unveil the truth, with proof. Once sworn in, Rivera walked up to the stand. "Miss Keller, can you explain the nature of your work with respect to the Brown Family Trust?" "Of course," Dana answered. "I was retained to perform a complete audit of the family's collective financial records, in particular concentrating on the Coyote Pass land account, trust fund activity, and personal withdrawals between 2020 and 2023. And what did you discover?" Keller opened a fat binder and clicked the first tab. "Substantial inconsistencies," she said baldly. Although the initial trust was created as a four-party deal, with co-equal supervision by Kody, Janelle, Christine and Meri, that format was dismantled in 2021 through a legal amendment filed without notification to Janelle or Christine. The judge nodded forward. "Go on." "After examining financial reports, I found that more than $203,000 was moved from the common trust into an account only in Robyn Brown's name. The money was moved in small amounts to prevent triggering suspicions, and wasn't authorized by any co-trustees." The courtroom whispered. "Objection." Robyn's lawyer Mr. Moore jumped up. "Speculation. Overruled." The judge replied quickly. "She's speaking of documented facts." Miss Keller went on. "This money financed home remodels, education for Robyn's children, home security systems and car upgrades. Two pieces of Coyote Pass property that were initially earmarked for family development were rezoned, through zoning applications filed by Robyn's LLC, for private residential use." Gasps again. The courtroom clerk even looked stunned. Rivera moved nearer to the jury box. "So let's get clear. Robyn diverted funds intended for shared family assets and used them solely for her household." "That is correct," Keller replied. "And she changed zoning on land other family members had contributed financially?" "Yes." "Did she inform Janelle?" "No records indicate that she did." Rivera stood and turned towards the judge. Let the record reflect that Robyn Brown, purportedly in her capacity as management of the family assets, engaged in what can only be seen to be financial manipulation and breach of fiduciary trust. Moore rose again. May I cross-examine? The judge granted permission. Moore moved towards Dana Keller, seeking to regain some semblance of control. Miss Keller, do you know that Kody Brown verbally approved many of those transfers? There are no written authorizations on file, but if he authorized them orally, would that not be sufficient? I'm an accountant, Dana said flatly. I deal in numbers and signatures, not vague conversations. Moore shifted tactics. Would it be unusual for a family in a spiritual marriage structure to operate in less formal terms? Keller gave a slight smile. Unusual? Maybe. Irresponsible? Absolutely. Gasps of laughter from the courtroom crowd. Even the judge didn't suppress a smirk.